Okay, so we're for this post for Compete for Christ, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to sit down with a couple of our athletes at Lincoln Christian School and really talk about the recent storm they've been through with dealing with injuries. And so we've got JD and Grant with us, and they're just going to talk a little bit about some of the things they've gone through. And I guess I'll just take a minute to introduce. We'll kind of go JD first, and then we'll go to you, Grant. And so this is JD. He's a senior at Lincoln Christian, plays football, basketball, runs track. That's like almost exactly a year ago when you first had a problem,
this
right?
week.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
this week.
this
Yeah.
week.
So in the Tri-County football game last year, did some damage to his shoulder, fought through the season, was able to play basketball, but decided to have labrum surgery at the end of the basketball season. And so, I guess JD, the first thing would just be, what were some of your, I kind of mentioned in the paperwork I gave you guys, there's obviously you had some worries, some concerns. There was some need to trust beyond what you could see. What were some of those things that you were struggling with?
Well, the immediate question was, am I going to be able to play football?
Yeah.
So the surgery was April 4th, and they told me it was a 6-month recovery, which would mean October
Right.
is when I'm healthy again.
Right.
And so, missing a whole month of football was, I was not a big fan of that.
Right.
So immediately it was just like, am I going to play football again? It's my senior year. It's it's the last time I have. I gotta play. I gotta compete and all that. So that was just the first immediate doubt. And if you've ever had surgery, you can't move your arm at all either. So it was almost just like, am I even gonna ever get better?
Right. Yeah. And I can, as you know, I have total empathy with you. Had the same
it's-
surgery, and
it's
you have this helpless
horrible.
feeling.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, those were just like my main concerns at first.
Sure. Yeah, and I know that you go from being this great athlete to you can't brush your teeth.
Right.
It's
You're
like,
just,
man, how did I get?
just
Yeah.
sit around and just like, man.
So that's tough. That's a tough spot to be in. And so then you've got that time where you're in that sling for a long time where you don't even know if you're really progressing too much. I mean, you're
Right.
kind of out in the open, and there's no end in sight. So then, okay, let's talk about Grant. Grant is plays football and plays basketball. Sprained his ankle this summer, just playing normal summer league stuff, and then had some trouble with it at the beginning of this football season. Grant is our quarterback, and JD plays receiver. I didn't mention that, but Grant, you sprained your ankle right in the middle of our first game.
Yeah.
Then we had this crazy lightning storm. You were able to kind of heal it up overnight.
Yeah.
We finished the game the next day, and you finished the game. But then we played a top 5 team the next week, and after the second series, you sprained it again. And so, what were the thoughts you were struggling with? I mean, as we finished the game, you knowing that you weren't going to be able to finish that game for sure, and not sure what was out there in front of that.
Yeah, well, at first, I thought I had a chance at coming back in. Because
Mhm.
it didn't feel too bad. It wasn't as bad as the first one. Well, then, I iced it, and we went into halftime. I was like, oh, maybe I'll be able to come in second half. And I get out there, and it's like, maybe it just wasn't meant to be. And, I couldn't move it. I couldn't push off of it. And I was like, I think God just wants me, just showing me. Main thing I've learned is patience. I've had problems with that, and he's been teaching me even since I was a freshman, just learning patience, and I'm still learning. And that was one of the main things, and just trusting God. Maybe He's got a plan, He's got a sovereign plan, and He's going to carry it out, and I know He cares about me, and that was the main thing, teaching me patience, be patient.
Yeah.
And but sometimes if you rush it, got to pay a price.
Mm-hmm.
And so just trusting Him, and we had a great game against Lutheran, and I was thankful that I got to play the whole game.
Right.
And I was praising Him for that.
Right.
Sometimes you're not going to always play every game, but come back the next week and just keep fighting through it. And
Yeah. Well, I know, we were Wednesday as an offensive coordinator, I wasn't planning on having a quarterback, and
Yeah.
I mean, and even all summer with you, JD, I was like, well, if JD's healthy, that'll be great, but I'm thinking kind of without him, you know, because we didn't know, and so I think we all learned a lot about being patient and trusting a plan, because this is important to us. We put a lot of time into it, and so I think that's good. So go ahead.
It was definitely, I mean, playing a top 10 team, you want to be out
Right,
there.
you want to be there. Yeah,
You
it's
know,
a big game.
It's
Yeah,
frustrating, but
sure. Well,
yeah, move on.
the funny thing about you guys this summer is you spent the whole summer trying to get healthy enough to really start putting in the reps, doing things, and you got there. You were able to do quite a bit more than I thought you'd be able to. And then you spent the whole summer. I mean, you and I went to quarterback camps in 3 states, and we did a whole bunch of stuff getting ready and put a lot of time in at 6 a.m. even, and I know it was tough for me even just to see. It was great to see JD playing and healthy, and then at the same time I'm thinking, man, but Grant put in all the work too, and I was torn to see both you guys struggling with that. So can you guys maybe pinpoint for either of you the lowest point in the struggle that is the storm of an injury that you have, in yours throughout your surgery or rehab, and yours is kind of short, like you've been able to turn it around pretty quick in 10 days, but JD had the months where he was, out there wondering what happened.
Well, right away, you're in surgery. After surgery, you're just in a sling. You can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I'm sitting around at home, all these guys are lifting and
Mm-hmm.
getting bigger, and I'm just like, man, I want to be there. And then in summer, lots of summer basketball league. So I'd go to all these games, and that it even got worse. Just sitting on the bench and watching, my teammates go out there and play without me, and that's just so hard to see. Even last year when I had to sit out a couple of games of football, it's just the worst. Like there's nothing like it. Just watching, your teammates play without you. There's just an incredible desire to want to get out there and play with them, and so, we all know it that you shouldn't take sports for granted, but when it's really taken away from you, that's when it's like a reality to you that we really can't take this for granted. I mean, this is one of the best times in our lives, so we need to make the most of it.
Good. Grant, low point?
Probably, you've worked so hard, especially as a quarterback. You put it, the last couple of years I wasn't where I was now. This year I'm so much better from what I've been, and I was confident that I knew I could play. And then to have all that work and then be cut short, especially your senior year, you only have your time's coming to an end as a high school senior, and to not be able to play just means it's getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
So that was it was like, I want to play as much as I can, but it goes back to that God's plan.
Yeah.
And you just got to trust Him.
Right. And that is so hard. I know when I battled through some injuries too, you just think, man, we put in so much work, me and my teammates and everybody's put in so much work, and for it to just be gone, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say I trust that God's got a plan and that things are going to work out good. How about, this whole conversation stems from looking at Matthew 8, I think it's 23 through 27, where Jesus calms the storm. And, basically Jesus tells the disciples when they're concerned, have you no faith? What you're not understanding, like, who you're with, that everything's going to be okay, that I'm going to take care of it. So what are some lessons you've learned? I think of James 1, 2 through 4 talks about going through trials. Romans 5, 3 through 5 talks about persevering and going through trials and developing the character that God wants in us. What are some of those things? You talk about patience, talk about trusting Him. Are there some other things that really stick out?
Well, I would say, God has that plan for you, and so learning to trust that, learning to be faithful. He let me come back in 4.5 months, which was a blessing.
Right.
And in Romans, I was actually going to talk about Romans 5, in chapter 5, it says, perseverance develops character, and character develops hope. That hope that God gives us is one of the, if not the best thing we can have in this life. A state championship, not even a Super Bowl can top that hope that Jesus Christ gives us. And so I think I just need to remind myself of that truth, that, you know, it's not exactly about getting back to play sports for my own pleasure or my own gain, you know. It's more like, God, what are you going to teach me? How are you going to use this in my life to, you know, strengthen me as a man, better my character? Because it's in these times, these hard times, the trials, is when we grow closer to God.
Right.
It's not in the easy times.
Right.
And so, you know, if life was easy all the time, and that wouldn't do any good for us. So it's in these hard times is that what matters most, is when we do the most searching for God, when we do the most growing. And so it's extremely important. I mean, to be honest, if I didn't have this shoulder injury, I don't know if I'd be the man I am right now.
Right.
So,
I'm with you because I had the same injury,
yeah,
and it was a huge moment in my
quite
life.
a
Yeah,
bit,
it was.
yeah.
Football was so important, and you realize that there's a lot to be learned outside of what you think there is to be learned. Yeah, good.
The thing for me, probably sorry, attitude. Having a great attitude through it, and I've learned that from I broke my collarbone my sophomore year,
Yeah.
and that really taught me everybody's looking up to you, especially when you're when you're a senior. You got junior hires, underclassmen. They're looking up to you to see how you react to those certain situations.
Yeah.
And that collarbone injury taught me that, and I think that's one thing God prepared me for this year, with ankles. You know, and then if you do get hurt, I want to find a way how can I help Logan? You know, help him
Right.
get better, and you know, just keeping that great attitude, so others can say there's something different about him.
Right. Yeah. So, and that gets back to, we talk about being ambassadors for Christ all the time, and really representing Him, and you did do a great job with that. When you were out, and you know, it was you, and it was Logan, me, and you in the little quick quarterback coach meetings between possessions and stuff, and that was awesome. And you've been a little bit limited on defense because of your shoulder things, and maybe starting to get back into it more. But you know, we've had conversations like, here's what we can do, and just making the most of the actually unique extra opportunities. If neither of you'd ever gotten hurt, we'd never have those opportunities to kind of do some extra game planning, and God opened the door to even be more prepared in doing what we do, and to really keep glorifying Him through that. And so I think, yeah, it's just you guys have done a good job with that, and there are people watching. That is so important, and I hope a lot of them tune in and see what you guys have to say. Anything you'd like to say before we close it? Things that you think are important to share with those guys that are watching, or anybody that might be out there that might happen to stumble on this video one way or another. You don't have to have something, but anything?
Just, I mean, like I said, like, Jesus Christ is ultimately the most important thing, and whatever, you know, he might put you through something. He might take away football. He might take away your favorite activity or whatever, but it's for a reason. He's not doing it just to punish you or something.
Right.
I mean, He will use anything to His glory, and to, you know, strengthen a person, make that person's faith grow or something. You know, he will use any situation He can. He can use the worst of situations.
Sure. Sometimes we go through something tough and we feel like God has something against us, or we view Him
Or
with
we're
that
getting punished.
Yeah,
You
with
just-
that clenched
you
fist,
just
that
get-
frustration.
I feel like that all the time.
Yeah, but
Did I
really,
do something wrong?
He's actually underneath us in
Yeah.
those moments, lifting us up,
It's
encouraging us through. If we're paying attention, there's huge
Right.
opportunities for
I mean,
encouragement.
and even right now, you might not know it, like why He's doing it.
Right.
You know, and then we could find out just years
Mhm.
along the road, or not
Mhm.
even in this life, maybe. I mean, it's crazy how He uses things.
Sure. Well, I really appreciate your time. I hope that all of you that are followers of the blog and people that might stumble across this really enjoyed hearing what they have to say, and we will let you know how things turn out for us over the next few weeks. So thanks so much, guys.
Thanks. No problem.
Hopefully we got it all.
Enough battery.